in my garage in Wichita, Kansas. So this is new for me too. So luckily, luckily I have this cutting table. Okay, so sterling silver. First, why sterling silver? The quality, right? A lot of people might ask you the same thing about why sterling silver brisket. A brisket, typically you're going to throw it in and braise it or cook it for a really long, slow time to get it tender. Why go up to that quality level? Well, it's flavor at that point, right? I can make a select brisket get tender too, right? But where's that beef flavor? Where's that marbling that's in there that really gives you that next level? I look at the amount of brisket that's being used today for the barbecue circuit here in the States, and they're using high choice and prime beef. They're not doing competitions or showing a judge or feeding people, even in restaurants, with a lower quality, select piece of meat. I'm sorry, what would that be? I'm used to the U.S., so this is AAA, right? So what would that be?
Double A.
Double A. Okay. So really, really important there to get that quality across. It's about that experience and that flavor profile. So the brisket. What is the brisket? It's a highly used muscle. I was doing my research again, and it takes about 60% of the weight of the animal is on that muscle, right? So it's right here. It's right above those forelegs there. So it gets used a lot of connective tissue, not something that you're just going to cook real quick, slice up, and have a good eating experience. So it takes a little love. One of my most favorite dishes in the world is sauerbraten, and a lot of people use parts from the round and all, but traditionally in German cooking, they brine it for a whole week in red wine and onions and juniper berries, and then you braise it. And I think the only way to have it is with a brisket, right? Plus there's other dishes, Montreal smoked beef, right? So ultimately it's like pastrami counterpart, but they use navel here in the States, and you're going to use the brisket up in Montreal and other parts of Canada. So there's two parts to this. You have the flat. I mean, right now it's a Packer brisket, they'll call it, but you'll have your flat and your point. So I'll take that apart, but your flat here is a little bit leaner and flatter muscle, right? And then when you get up to the point, that's where you have a lot more marbling going on up there. That's really like the best part, in most people's opinions, my opinion, of the brisket. You tend to slice the flat, and you can either dice up or shred the point. That's just the way that it breaks down. The muscle fibers change also. So I'm just going to get into this and cut it open. Really, like no purge in these, which is nice. I mean, just like anything else, you want to make sure that there's age on this product. If it didn't have age, could you still get it tender? Yes, that's pretty easy to do with that slow cooking and braising. But is that flavor going to be there? Really, the aging of this product is more about flavor development than anything else. So you can see the head or the point right here. There's a lot more fat on that. And then the flat. So this has up to about 3/4 of an inch of fat, mainly in that top head part there, or on the point. So you're going to want to trim that down. Down when you get to the flat, maybe on the one side you have a little bit to do, but I like to take it down to about 1/8 of an inch. So we'll trim some of this off. Can everybody hear me fine?
You bet.
Good. There are some great videos on YouTube about, American barbecue pit masters and the way that they trim these down. Just to, if any of your customers wanted to look a little bit more information about the brisket, there's so much of it online. So we're going to get this trimmed a little bit. So a lot of times I'll cook this whole, but especially in Kansas City, they're known for what they call burnt ends. So they'll actually take the brisket and smoke the flats separate than they do the points. Because it's so popular there, they take the point and they actually, after they smoke it, they dice it up and throw it back on the smoker. And it usually has a little barbecue sauce on it. And then it just becomes like beef candy. And the texture's great, really, really smoky. Just phenomenal. You really can't do that with the leaner side, but that's still great to go on sandwiches and everything else. So once we get that trimmed to the part we want, flip it over. There's going to be on the other side, there's this big pocket of fat. That is, it's really firm fat. You're going to have to get in there and take that out. Sorry about that little shaking noise. This is also where you're going to see your separation here. It's going to start between the point and the flat. So I know it's hard to see, but where that head is, there is a little basically point of the flat on the bottom here, and then there's this fat. So that's a seam, and that's how we would separate these. So you'd go down here and just follow that seam. And I'll tell you, it's almost like cooking like a big turkey or something. I personally don't like to cook them whole. I like to take the leg and the thigh off. Same thing here with the brisket. Even when I'm just doing regular barbecue, I like to separate the two. Just because they're basically, you have an overall better finishing experience. And one cooks a little faster than the other. So your flat probably going to be done a little bit sooner. Even though the point's smaller, it just takes a little bit longer to get there. So I'm going to go in here and follow that down. Okay. So once that's removed, there's a little more fat you're going to want to take off in here. And then you got your flat. You can trim that up just a little bit too. Great product to throw a cure on, like for Montreal beef. Brine it. I'm a huge purist when it comes to beef. I'm a salt and pepper guy for most product. So if I was going to put this on a smoker, that's all I would put on there. If I'm going to braise it for like a pot roast, it's going to be fairly simple, traditional. You know, some celery, carrots, onions, some beef broth, a little red wine, somewhere in that. But to me, it comes down to the finished dish, right? And how well you cook that braise, how well you put it on the smoker and tend to that fire. Really, really important, and let that beef shine through. And it's an amazing textural, flavorful eating experience. So right now, any questions on this from a raw standpoint?
I think we've got everyone on mute right now, Pete, so we're saving the questions for the end, if that's all right.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. Anything there that I think I'm missing on the raw product? No?
Nope, looks great.
Okay, great. So here, here in the States too, I mean, briskets, they're just one of the items I can't even get my hands on much, because this product is used so much in all the barbecue restaurants that we have. Just because it's such a popular cut. People expect it, they love it. This point makes amazing tacos and breakfast hash. You want to shred it up and put it in with your eggs in the morning. It's just really versatile. So I'm just going to take this off here. I'm going to wipe down my table. I'm going to show you a few dishes that I made. and then we can ask more questions and talk about that. Actually, I'm gonna change my stuff. Don't ding me on food safety here because I'm just gonna throw down some butcher paper over this and put the food down. I won't be eating it.
You probably plated them an hour ago anyway, right?
Yeah, well, I rushed it and did it actually when I was off camera before. So. And I was sweating, I'll tell you that. I'll move that out of the way in a sec.
We need a big sterling silver logo on your drop sheet there, Chef Pete.
You know, I got a Cargill one, but I didn't put that up. So I was hoping I had a sterling one, but I didn't. So we'll get one next time. Hopefully I'll be in the office next time, so I don't have to use my garage.
It's looking pretty sharp.
I actually decided to make some Montreal beef, so I'm going to start with that one. And I cured it. Went for 2 days. I actually injected it a little bit with that cure too. So, hopefully it came out all right. So if you're not familiar with, you know, like deli style pastrami or Montreal beef, it gets cured and then it gets smoked for 2 to 3 hours and then it gets steamed. And a lot of the times they keep it in the steamer during service, right? And as people start showing up to get their sandwiches, there's just someone that's taking it out and just chopping it up. So I tried to follow suit with that. Smells phenomenal. Sorry you can't smell this.
We are too.
Okay, so this is the flat end, and on this end we've got our point. So I'm just going to slice. I don't know if you can see that. Bring it a little closer to the camera. Is that, I don't know, can you see that? Hold on. I'm going to walk it over to the camera. Maybe it's a little better. All right.
Nice.
You see? Got some beautiful
Very
pink
nice.
color there as I'm stepping on my raw brisket there. So what are they going to do in the delis? They're just going to sit there and chop this up. But I mean, you could offer up a restaurant and, you know, they can make a salad out of this, right? Montreal smoked beef salad, and make some rye croutons to put on there, and just different flavors to change it up a little bit, right? But traditionally, it's just going to go on some rye bread. It's going to get stacked real high. And I mean, this is, if you're hungry.
Chef, will our samples be on our way right now?
That's the best. Well, if you want to drive down to Wichita, I got plenty of brisket here. I can easily throw that right back on the fire for a minute or two, make sure that we didn't transfer any raw meat onto that, right? So that's your Montreal, right? Again, just showing that versatility. Really does well with the cure. Just gonna move this. You know, I know we make a lot of pastrami's and we use top round and bottom round and all. And I'm not a fan. Brisket is the best way to go for corned beef and pastrami. So next, I actually did a American style barbecue, and I always smoke it for about 6 hours and then wrap it in butcher paper. Try to hold that moisture in there. But you can see I have two pieces because I told you I actually separated the two. Here's that flat. take that. Slice that. Again, you can shred the flat if you wanted to, but it does better slicing. And something too, if you were to smoke this or even braising it, that internal temperature needs to hit about 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius. For this to actually break down and be tender. Really, really important. I mean, that goes for any braised beef. And then the point, so right here, this is actually something that you could pull apart and shred. All right. Got nice big muscle fibers, so really like the texture of this versus, I love shredded chuck or something, but it's a different eating experience. So those nice fibers right there. See that?
Ugh, my mouth's watering.
All right. And again, you make some barbecue sandwiches out of these. Or, if a restaurant doesn't have, like, a big smoker or something like that, there's ways that they can put this in a pan in the restaurant and just smoke it on the actual in the kitchen, right? So they use a hotel pan, put some wood chips in there, get some smoke on it for 45 minutes to an hour. Then they can go in the oven, and they don't have to use a lot of liquid, but really slow roast it and still get a nice smoke flavor. Is it going to be Texas style smoked brisket? No, but who cares? Not everybody loves that much smoke on a brisket. But something like this, whether it's been braised or smoked, makes amazing tacos. Now, I know tacos are becoming really, really popular just about anywhere. So it's pretty simple, if we just take these and shred it up, or, like I said, put them in an omelet over eggs, that'd be awesome. But a simple brisket like that with maybe some pickled jalapenos, cabbage, somewhere along those lines. It could be a barbecue taco. I mean, that's up to the chef, of course, right? And then maybe it gets finished off with a little salsa on top. So again, two different styles there, but so this was steamed, this one wasn't, it was just smoked. And then I do have two dishes that are fully prepared already. So I have, my Instapot I used, which was pretty darn cool. And this was cooked in 60 minutes, right, in a pressure cooker. And this is basically a pot roast, right? But again, the texture of this versus, say, a chuck pot roast, which I wouldn't make pot roast pretty much out of anything but these two muscles. This is going to eat a little differently than chuck does, right? And this was using the flat. I love the flat for this. It slices up nice, gives you something a little different. If you were to use the point, it would be more of that pull apart type pot roast. And then the last thing I made here was just basically, I diced that same pot roast up, and then I made a stir fry. I chilled the flat a little bit, then I diced it into big chunks, and then I stir fried it with a little like teriyaki sauce and veggies. So it'll take those flavors real well. But as opposed to other styles of stir fries where there may be a little bit of a chew in that meat, this is a big hunking piece of meat that's just going to melt in your mouth when you eat it.
Pete, could you hold that a little closer to the camera so we can see a little bit better?
Sure can.
That'd be great. Thank you.
How's that? Is that
A little
better?
higher up. Yeah. Awesome. Beautiful.
All right. So, okay, I would open it up now for a little Q&A if there's any questions.
Jeff, do you want to unmute the line just for
I
a
think
couple
I did. Are you
minutes?
guys unmuted? Can you speak, anybody?
Hello, hello.
There we
You
go.
have to manually unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody go ahead and manually unmute yourself if you have any questions for Chef Pete.
How long did you
I don't
smoke
have a
it for?
question, but I am about to buy one of these for myself now, just from your demo. So thank you. My wallet thanks you.
So, to answer the one question, how long did I smoke it for? I'd say with the fact that I wrap it after 6 hours, it probably took about 9.5 hours, especially that it was apart. Normally it would go up to about 11 if you kept it together, but you know, you tend to dry that out some more. And I did this yesterday, chilled them down and just reheated them today, which actually a lot of times I think it just better texture. It was too soft the first time around, but you have to be careful though, because you can easily dry it out when you heat it. You know, the other thing I like about, you know, I mean, I don't know what you're charging for this product, but as a restaurateur, it's not that expensive. And I mean, I go to my local Sam's here, and for $30 I buy one, and that's the markup, right? So there's a lot of profit that could be made with this. The fact that it is slow roasted, any type of slow roasted product, especially during these times, does really, really well for takeout because it's meant to be held.
I'm not hearing Chef Pete anymore.
I'm not hearing either. So.
I think
Someone muted us
Chef
or
Pete
something.
got muted.
Yeah, okay. Got
I
it.
hear it now. It's all good now. It's good now.
So what I was saying was braised meats or something that's going to be low and slow cooked where you're breaking down that connective tissue and all. It's going to hold that moisture and it'd be a better eating experience for takeout, right? So a lot more takeout nowadays. I definitely look at this, the chuck, some short ribs, things like that. To me, those should be the stars right now. Unfortunately, a steak, you know, I'm a medium rare guy. You know, how are you going to give me a great steak eating experience? I mean, I'll take any steak over no steak, but it's a little easier when you have a product like this.
Go ahead, Keith Stars. I think you had a question.
Hi, Chef. In your experience, I've obviously sold a lot of the brisket, but I haven't hands-on myself. Have you noticed a lot of size variance in the Sterling briskets, or are they pretty close to the same size, so cook time and stuff, or?
There's going to be some variability there. This case that I just got, it was probably within a half a pound a piece. It was really, really close. And I typically don't see them big difference, but you may see a couple pound differences. Sometimes you might also see a more lengthwise, about the same, but sometimes they tend to be a little bit more pressed and higher. Right, so that density is a little different. So your cook time might actually be a half hour longer on something like that versus the ones that are a little flatter. Right. But most chefs understand that, and I mean, if you're at a place and you're pumping out, you know, you're doing a case at a time or so forth. I think with any cut of beef, they're going to have to make sure that they're sticking the fork in each one to make sure that they're tender, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other questions for Chef Pete?
Hi, Chef. How you doing? It's Mark McLean.
Hey.
Hi. You know, I find the product, we had it the other day, our Chef Pete cooked it up as well. And aesthetically, it looks really, really nice when it's cooked. It's got a nice look to a nice feel to it. It tastes wonderful. When you look at the product for retail, like I understand the food service piece, I get it. Would that be a product you could actually sell at retail as well, where they could actually slice it in the machine if it was a smaller cut?
So slicing it cold, yeah, they could. Typically, you'd want to take most of that fat off, though. I mean, I can speak for in the States here, that surface fat, you know, especially on beef, when it's cold, it's different. People don't care for that much.
Okay.
But as far as, you know, I remember Boards had huge deli maker products here. It's been a long time, but they came out with a brisket you could put on there with a flat. it would work. I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, because you were saying earlier it's meant for sandwiches and salads, but from the sandwich side, it would work really well in the deli machine and for making sandwiches, right?
Yeah, and some places will use and do the flat, like if they're pumping out a lot of sandwiches, as opposed to someone constantly chopping. This is hot with a knife. They'll just throw that stuff on and use a slicer. But you really have to be careful hot, because if you took the cook temp a little too far, it's gonna fall apart. But
Okay.
most people don't care if there's some of those fines, as we call them, are on the sandwich. It's all delicious. But cold, it'll slice up